morning.
Oh, hi.
It was time. What? Thank you.
Good morning.
All right. We have a bit of a late start today.
Yeah, that's okay.
Ready?
Sorry.
I got confused about which hand to do with. Oh, hey, you okay?
Hello,
You
Atlas.
want to come up here?
You want to jump up?
Okay, come on.
All right, and we've got Atlas.
Good girl. All right, why don't you
Okay.
take a seat? All right.
Welcome to Books We Never Read.
Except for those we have.
I'm Nicole,
I'm Jason.
and this is our final discussion, sadly, of Project Hail Mary by Andy Weir. What'd you think about the book?
Yeah.
Oh my gosh, it was so good. So anyways, if this is your first time joining us, welcome to the book club. We're so happy to have you here. If you have not read the book yet, we do recommend that you stop, go read the book, and then come back to the discussions. We have them playlisted for you in the playlist section. If you're with us live, please talk in the chat, and if you're catching us on a replay, please talk to us in the comment box. We love to hear what you thought about the book. We love reliving the books. We love it. We love all the book club things. Peggy says she's sad that the book is over, and I am too. I cried. That's when you know it's a good book, when you just cry because you're sad that it's over. So, anyway, we are on YouTube Music as a podcast, if you would like to hear us but not see us. And we look forward to our next book.
Yep. The syllabus will be coming out immediately after this episode.
So yeah, you ready to get started?
I'm ready.
Let's do it. So, what'd you think?
A plus. This book was fantastic. And you know what's interesting is that the author is so good at this because by all rights this should be a dry book. Right? Like
Yeah.
it's like just with all the science and stuff and with how much time he spends alone, you know, it could be slow, but it is not. So
Yeah, I did take a few moments to reflect on that. In the moments when he was getting real nerdy and real scientific-y, I was like, this is still enjoyable.
yeah, and maybe
It's so
maybe that
nice.
says something about like us as readers than it does about like him as an author.
I think it's both.
Yeah, I think it's both too. But you know, I wonder how many people don't care about the science as much as we might, and still enjoy this book. But I bet it's a lot of people.
And he did it in a way that it was just enough. You know, right when you'd start to kind of tune out,
Yeah.
he ended it. So I mean, it just very, very well planned.
Well, I enjoy like watching people do science, and I think there's some value to that. Hey, baby, I think there's some value to that because you know there's a large group of people that are anti-science right now, or think just because something looks a certain way means it must be that way, and watching somebody like come up with an experiment that is falsifiable and you know doing all of that like we can all do that and we have gotten to where we are as a civilization because of this process and but it's very rare that you actually get to see somebody go through an experiment. I just don't feel like I see that a whole lot.
Yeah.
And it's refreshing. Yeah.
And the author had a great mix of walking us through some of those experiments and then sometimes just letting us know when it was over
Right.
and
Right.
the results.
Yeah.
You know? So, I mean, I would have loved to have seen the editing phase of this, you know, the revision phase, not necessarily the editing phase, but the revisions phase. You know, how much did he change and how much did he take out? And it was just so well done.
Yeah. Well, and he saves us from what probably is the dullest parts. Like, we get to skip 2 weeks of chain making.
Yeah.
Which is, I'm grateful. But I
Poor guys.
can, when he says, like, he dreams it, I get that. Because if I do something too much, I'll dream it. We have this machine at work that goes ka-chung, 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 ka-chung. And it does it all day long. All day. And the guys who operate the machines will tell me that they hear it in their dreams. You know? Hey, little one. And sometimes I think I'll hear it, but I'm not like as connected to that process.
Right.
Ka-chung, ka-chung, ka-chung.
Yikes.
Yeah. All right. So whenever he discovers that the astrophage has gotten out, or that Talmiba has gotten out and has destroyed his fuel
The first time, or
when he's on his way home by himself.
Yeah.
What was your first thought?
my first thought was, oh no,
Okay.
Rocky.
Okay. My first thought was that Rocky did it on purpose.
Oh.
And I know that's cold, but like that's sort of like the Dark Forest coming out, right? But that because he makes a big point to say Rocky never makes mistakes in his engineering.
Right.
Well, so if Rocky never makes mistakes in his engineering and there's Talmiba getting out, then Rocky must have done it. And I was so happy to find out that he hadn't. But I immediately thought
The enemy.
that he had used, Grace to do this
Yeah.
experiment and to set up this success, but then doomed him to die so that they wouldn't have this like competing race in the universe.
So I kept paying really close attention to the flashbacks because I knew something in the flashbacks would give us some kind of hint of future trouble or future solutions. That always did. And all week when I was like reheating my coffee in the microwave or whatever, I was thinking about the part where he was talking about that netting at the microwave. That is, those little holes, that's what keeps the microwaves from coming
Yes.
out.
Okay, yeah.
That's enough, right? And that's why it's there, so that we don't become little microwaved things while we're watching our food cook in the microwave. I thought about that all week. And
So you knew it was coming.
I didn't. You know, we
Interesting.
have that thing where like we think of so many possibilities that we're like, I knew it
Right,
when
right,
it happens.
right.
And so of course when we learned that, okay, spoiler, so get out of here if you haven't read it yet. When we learned that the Talmiba could jungle its way through that steel, I can't even remember what it's called now.
The Xenonite.
The Xenonite, yeah. I was like, it's the microwave.
Okay. See, I totally forgot
You know,
about all that.
And
yeah,
but had they not been like sentient or sensory
yeah.
adaptable,
He uses a specific term for
yeah,
it. Yeah.
you know, then it would have just been the microwave.
Right.
But as soon as something can adapt to sensory experiences,
Right.
then
He
it
talks
just
about
goes, oh,
right. He talks about throwing baseballs through a forest.
yeah, tennis balls,
Tennis
yeah,
balls.
yeah.
Yeah.
The difference between throwing a tennis ball and being a person walking through it.
Peggy is clearly horrified that I thought that Rocky set him up.
Yep.
But imagine the alternate book where we don't have this positive ending, and instead we have this ending where like we've gone through all this, we love Rocky, and then
You were waiting for a heartbreak.
I was waiting for a heartbreak, and
You
he
were ready
discovers
for a
that
bad
he has
ending.
been betrayed by this thing that he thought he was his friend, that he can't possibly understand because it's this like other alien life form that can present itself in any kind of way, right? It could be deceptive, like what if we find out that like everything is presented itself is deception or something? That still would have been a good book.
I would have been devastated. No, I'm so happy.
Yeah. I'm glad that they went back and found each other and helped each other, and
Yeah.
that was the Dark Forest has taken up too much capacity in my mind, and to see this, and like hopefully the humans aren't gonna like send bombs to Eridne now, because I assume that he told them.
Like that he sent a message.
Yeah, I assume that like in the terabytes of information that he sent.
Yeah,
back
I
are,
was going to ask
you know,
about that. Like, did he go ahead and include his notes and his experiences and his journals and all that stuff?
he included everything that they needed to make more, Talmiba 87 or whatever it was, but it doesn't explicitly say, I don't think, that he had met an alien and all this other stuff. I imagine he would. That's important information to have.
Yeah.
Especially because there needs to be some kind of parity in my mind. Again, Dark Forest. If the Iridians know about Earth, Earth needs to know about them.
Yeah. Yeah. I also wondered if he went ahead and sent a message to Earth. It would. This planet is 16 light years from Earth. And so I wonder if he went ahead and just sent a message that said, just by the way, for the future populations of Earth, I didn't die in space.
Yeah.
I made it.
Well, I think part of the problem is that like any radio wave that he would send from
Launch something. Launch something that sends out a radio wave, like
yeah, maybe.
like launch a
But
satellite.
that is what the Beatles are.
But he sent those before he knew he was going to make it anywhere. He assumed at that point he would go ahead and die.
I gotcha.
So, but I think it'd be cool for the future generations at some point
Yeah, to
to
know.
intercept
Yeah.
some signal communication that says,
Mm-hmm.
by the way, there was more to my story.
Mm-hmm.
Peggy mentioned also, what a bummer, like so many teachers, he wasn't retired in his 70s.
Yeah. Well, but I mean, it's what he wanted to do. You know, it's all he wanted to do because he got bamboozled onto this spaceship. By the
Yeah.
way, I had a dream that they told me I was getting drafted, and I had to go into space on a suicide mission after reading
Did
this.
that detail change the way that you felt about him at all? Knowing that he did not choose and was in fact forcibly drafted.
No, I don't think so because I don't think at any point I don't think at any point I ever believed that he had chosen. It was just information that was
Left out.
left out. And so we went from not knowing if he had volunteered to finding out that he hadn't volunteered, which is like almost functionally the same thing. You know, I don't know. You know, I think a better question perhaps is, does it change the way that we view Strat? And I don't think so. I don't think it changes it for me. And I understand. You know, she said at one point, "I fully expect to be like indicted and held on trial after this, but I'm doing my
Imprisoned.
job."
Yeah.
And you know, there's if it was in any other situation and she could have gone and instead was like, "No, you," I'd have a problem with it because
She
I'd
couldn't
say,
go.
"Well, I'm not sure that she wasn't the science person,
Yeah,
right?
she wasn't anybody. She was just the boss.
Right, yeah, she was like a
project manager.
Yeah. And because this is not a scenario where she could have gone, I don't have a problem with her bamboozling him into
Yeah.
going. You know,
I mean, it had to be done.
yeah,
He was the best person for the job. I'm not at all disappointed in him for not wanting to go on a suicide mission.
Yeah.
I mean, you just can't blame people for that at all. But, you know, just like in wars where the draft has been enlisted, you know, you don't blame any of them for not wanting to go and for
right,
wanting to get out of it. And nobody wants to die.
yeah,
And I did like that theme that this book kind of addressed is, you know, we are all going to die. That is the inevitability. But, you know, what things can we do to ease that process, to lengthen that process, to, you know, ensure a quality of life? And even with Grace, when he made his choice to just send the Beatles and turn back and help Rocky, you know, he knew he was going to die.
Yeah.
So what are the conditions, you know, like, and that's kind of, I think all we really want is we want to have some kind of control over the conditions that it happens. And he didn't choose to go on the suicide mission, but he did choose to possibly die to go save his friend.
Yeah.
You know, and I just think that is very interesting. And I don't think it's as simple as calling someone a coward. When Strat called him a coward, that made me mad.
yeah.
He's just a human.
I don't know. I mean, like, he's a coward. I agree with that. Are most humans cowards?
I was
Sure,
gonna say most
probably.
humans are.
Right. I don't think it has to be an insult, but
Yeah.
but it's bringing him back down from thinking, you know, you've done this noble thing, but like you're not willing to do. Yeah. The other thing too is like he doesn't want to die, but if he stays on Earth, there's like a high chance that he will die
Right.
in the next couple of years.
Yeah, he might not have survived all
yeah.
that.
Was it a book that we had read where they said, you know, if very recently, if you know you don't want to give somebody something to fight for, you want to give somebody someone to fight.
You can give him a friend.
Yeah, you don't want to give somebody something to die for. You want to give them someone to die for. There was something.
It was something we read. It was like the last book we read or the book before.
Yeah.
What was it?
I don't know. But yeah, if they have baby, you gotta move. Come on. If you give, but that's the catch, right? There was nobody on Earth that was his someone, but Rocky was able to be his someone, you know, and so he was able to make this choice that he wasn't able to make on Earth to save the entire human race. He was able to make to save a dog-sized rock person, right?
Yeah, and his choice saved 2 races. You know,
and I don't have I'm like, yes, I don't think that part is necessary. I guess it's admirable that he chose to save Rocky. Saving 2 races is kind of incidental, though. He was never really that interested in his actions, in his sacrifices, saving either race, really. You know, And so I don't necessarily see him as a purposeful hero. He's still a hero, but there's a little, I don't know, there's a little wiggle room there.
He was an accidental hero,
Yeah.
and I think that is the most common hero. Oh, it was Tess. Tress. Shoot. Strat was right. The amnesia shot worked.
Yeah.
That he would be determined to fulfill the mission before he remembered why he was on the mission.
Yeah.
You know, all that played out correctly, and that's fine. The point is, he is fundamentally, like she said, a good man.
Yeah. Sure.
And so when you're faced with the hand that you have, those decisions that you make to do your best to solve the problem, to keep going, you know, and that shows the quality of the human. And I did feel a heart pang for him when he learned the news that the sun soul was back to its pre-astrophage levels. And he said, my life has meaning. You know, everything that I did now has meaning. You know, it had meaning before. He did end up saving a whole other race.
Yeah. Well, and it had meaning before he even had done that.
It did. I mean, yeah. But I think the fact that he remembers now that conversation with Strat and being called a coward, and that does something to you, you know, and this gave him something tangible to, you know, I might have been a coward, but I still did the thing, you know, I got it done.
Well, that's most people, right?
Right. That's me every day.
I feel like everybody's a coward until you overcome that fear, right?
I'm still a coward afterwards, but I'm like, but I did it.
Well, then that's what makes you a hero, right? If you fight a dragon but you're not afraid, you're not a hero. You're a psychopath, right?
Yeah.
This is like litany against fear stuff from Dune. So
I'll just
gold
run head
star.
first into it.
Yeah. I mean, and then in the end, all that remains, you know.
Yep, it's behind you.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, gold star to you for making the reference to
Dune.
Well, to Tress. Golder star to me for remembering what book it came from.
Oh, I thought you got that out of the chat. Sorry. Did you?
No, I just said it.
Okay.
Anyways, Peggy says, who we are at our core when we die, who we are is what we've done. We've talked about this in other books. Yeah. Yeah, this was such a cool adventure book, you know, because this is the greatest adventure, right?
Yeah.
But there was so much exploration of, you know, what makes us people. I won't say human, because Rocky's people too.
Right.
And I love that Grace recognized Rocky as people immediately. Immediately. It was never a question in his mind that these were people too.
Yeah.
And I thought that was pretty beautiful.
This is why, talking about, there was something you said a few seconds ago and it's gone now, but this is part of why I like My Hero's Dead. Right. Oh, Peggy was talking about like who you are at the end, right? Because we are always becoming. And so even if you were a hero, what if you live long enough to become a villain, right? Like that's a Batman thing, but it's still true
And a
everywhere.
Spider-Man thing.
Yeah,
It's everything
maybe it's a Spider-Man thing. But it brings me back to another book. I'm going for all the gold stars. The book about the spiders. What was that book? Children of Time. And you have the scientist who sets up that experiment and puts herself into the computer. And she was arguably a hero at the beginning because she's building new worlds and seeding them with life to prepare them for the survival of the human race until she goes insane, right? And like she just didn't die at the right time, you know. And could you be a hero and then die a coward? You could do that too, you know. And so you always have the potential of becoming something else as long as you're living. And so my point is that I generally agree with Peggy that it's once you're done that you can kind of determine more or less what a person was.
Right. Yeah. I mean, you can't ever label someone as good or bad.
Right. It's all complicated.
Yeah.
Sure.
Yeah. Josh said that this book invoked so much emotion.
Yeah.
And I agree.
Yeah, Kern, thank you. Yeah.
I'm still verklempt.
Yeah. Rocky's undoubtedly the best character, right? And part of it is just because like he sounds fun, and he like gets excited about things, and because I see him as my dog, and so that's just a little Rocky dog.
We do speak when we're excited in triplicate now.
Yeah,
Everything's
we have been doing that like
good,
all
good,
week.
good.
Good.
Yes.
Yeah. So one other thing I wanted to talk about, like in reference to Grace becoming a hero, is the fact that the really dry guy, he has a French name, and his partner blow up in an astrophage experiment,
Oh
right?
yeah.
And that's how Grace gets chosen in the first place. But the point about that is they were talking about how whenever you're in like micrograms or milligrams or whatever, like you can't tell we cannot tell the
Yeah.
difference. And so how was he supposed to know that it was going to blow himself up? Because he was just like looking at a tiny vial of black dots.
Right.
And I think that was just kind of interesting to me about at at such small scales or at such large scales we just don't understand and we cannot comprehend sort of the and not even in terms of distance or in terms of one particular substance, but even on the terms of Grace is willing to die for one alien person, but can't even really comprehend the idea that 3 billion or whatever are going to die, right? That's a number he does not understand.
Peggy, I laughed so hard at the fist bump
Fist my bump.
trial and error.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
That was so funny.
We'll have to talk to Shelby about making us
Fist my bump.
yeah, like a needlepoint fist my bump for the background.
Yeah.
Yeah, Dubois, Dr. Shapiro. Yeah, that's great.
Yeah.
Fist my bump.
Gosh, let me find my highlights.
And one other thing, it was interesting to see how easily they were, like, ultimately they were very easily able to communicate, and they adapted to it very quickly, but there were still things that they just like didn't quite understand about each other. And one of them was that once they build, no, don't do it.
No.
Don't do it. Once they got Grace to Aridne, they built him a clear dome because they were like, you see light, you must want to see outside. It's just blackness.
It's dark.
Yeah, and so just like some of those little things that kind of get lost in translation, where like that is not valuable, but thank you.
Yeah. I don't think he'll go back to Earth. He says, maybe I will.
Yeah.
He's already
Oh, yeah.
50
Yeah.
in his actual time, but 70 in Earth time.
Right. There's no one to go back for.
There's no one to go back for. It would be way too risky for him to try to make that journey. I don't see how he would survive it. I don't think he's
Well, and I don't know that they have coma technology, right? His ship is derelict in space somewhere, right? They got back. I know they got back on his ship. So yeah, and it's circling the planet.
Yeah.
I don't know.
They kept it up there for him just in case. Oh, sorry guys.
Sorry.
I highlighted when he tried the coma food.
The coma slurry?
By itself. He called it bitter pill chow. In the text, that is trademarked. It is bitter pill chow TM.
That's fine.
That made me laugh. There was just it was also just big shout out to the author. How he managed to keep such a heavy subject matter so light, and through the narration style and through how wholesome Ryland Grace is, just his attitude towards everything, like bitter pill chow TM, just little things like that. They were such gems while reading it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, and a lot of times when we have stories like this of one person who survives and finds an alien race, a lot of times we get this story of, well, they ended up being more at home. Like they were kind of a loner and they didn't belong on Earth. and these are their true people. And before we even have space stories, you see the sort of things where like some white person joins a Native American tribe or like whatever, right? Like you have this, and those are more like
You
this
thinking
like,
of Dancing with Wolves?
well, yeah, but or Pocahontas or whatever, right? But like you end up with these, and those stories are more of like a purity of nature sort of situation, and this
Yeah.
story is not either of those things. You know,
Yeah.
we have a perfectly functioning normal man who ends up joining an alien race out of necessity and not because he's disillusioned with what mankind is or something like that. And I think that's kind of a nice change of pace because it's very easy for us to just write these.
I think his profession as a scientist, because like when you were a scientist, that is not just a job, that is your way of thinking and approaching the world. You are curious by your nature, you know. So I think that characteristic of him, oh, I forgot where I was going with this, but it was like related to what you were saying. But that's what made him so successful in all of that.
Yeah.
That he was able to adapt to every part of the journey
Yeah.
because of his role as a scientist.
Right.
And I had something else to say about it. It really did connect. I'm so sorry. It's gone.
Well, Josh is talking about meat burgers. That was funny.
That was hilarious.
That was very funny.
He's like, yeah, I'm eating human meat, and it's mine.
Yep. Me burgers.
Me burger. He's so funny. Funny guy. Me burgers. Ugh. Oof.
Give me some more notes.
All right. I had highlighted the phrase. Let's see. I guess he was doing an EVA. Oh yeah, fire at the Beatles at full power. They'll just rip free of the handles and ride off into the towel set. All of these like words that he created, or you know, just not sunset, towel set. You know,
Yeah.
I don't know. I liked all of these things, Talmiba and all that. I thought that was all very clever. When he tried when he tried to like slam down in his seat, but he was in 0G. He's like, I'm pouting, darn it, and I'm gonna do it right.
There was a part where he said something about Talmiba farts, and Rocky was like, I know, understand last word.
Yeah, word after Talmiba. What was that? He's like, don't worry about it.
That part was funny.
Yeah, I'm sure Rocky would be totally disgusted by that. He's totally disgusted by the fact that we eat
Yeah.
and do all that. Come on up. Come on.
Come on.
Yeah, big jump. There you go. So farts would be.
Yeah.
Yeah. How did we not talk about farts? It's the funniest part of human nature.
Yeah.
Hi. I'm being so restless.
Well, they made so much. They made such a big deal about like what percentage everybody's air is of anything, and then be like, by the way, sometimes we breathe.
Speaking of named things, I was so glad Adrian was still alive and Rocky's mate.
Yeah, that was
that
cool.
was cool.
Come on, sit down. Turn around. Good girl.
So Josh and Peggy are talking about interested in reading The Martian.
Yeah. And you've read it, right?
I have watched the movie,
Gotcha. I think I've watched it.
but I don't even really remember it.
Yeah.
So there's that. Yeah. I highlighted when they were getting ready to say bye. You will miss me? Question. I will miss you. You are a friend. Anyways. I loved Grace's daily ritual of watching the tail lights of the blip A get further and further away. Glad he did it, you know, now that he needed to like turn back and go get them. But I mean, that's just so human, you know. It's love and friendship and attachment and all the beautiful things that hurt so bad. But yeah, you know, mostly just what do books like this reveal about humanity? You know, that we are curious and that is necessary for survival, curiosity. And, you know, kids are naturally curious. Carl Sagan talked about this, and then we just kind of beat it out of them, you know. We're like, no, don't touch that, or don't put your hand in there, and don't put your face against that, you know. When really, to the extent that it's safe, we need to kind of let kids get into weird stuff and learn stuff, you know, if it's not going to hurt them. if it's just going to be inconvenient for the people to clean it up, And schools do both parts of encouraging creativity and curiosity and squishing it, right? Like, it just kind of depends on where you end up and what kind of teachers you have. But I just thought it was a really cool focus that the novel had, that it's this curiosity and being comfortable chasing things that we're curious about and learning as much as we can about whatever we can. That's what saves us.
Yeah. Well, and just our ability to problem solve. Like I often talk about, like if the world ended today, I can't make planes. And I'm like, look at what we've done. I had no part in this, right? Like,
Yeah.
I did not. But there are small things that I could figure out, right? And there are small experiments that we all do every day to benefit our own lives or the lives of people around us. Usually they are experiments that somebody else has already figured out or could have figured out. No, ma'am.
No, leave it.
No, ma'am. No.
No.
Okay. You get out. Go.
Yeah, you're going to have to go. Go get in your bed.
But also their ability to the ability for, like, what Strat was doing and just solving problems, figuring out, like, just through brute force almost,
Yeah.
what had to be done. But then also, I'm going to close this door.
Yeah.
Vanished. We finally banned somebody from the book club, and it's my own dog. But then Grace's ability to persevere alone and to figure out these problems alone, which is something that I couldn't do either on like a social level or a scientific level.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah.
But all told, this might be. I'm constantly like changing what my top books are for the book club, and this one's up there.
Yeah.
We'll have to do another tier list again soon.
Yeah. And like, so how would you guys scale this against Children of Time?
That's a tough one. In my mind, they're very similar, and I'd almost put them together. Like if I were recommending one to someone, I'd say you need to read both of these. And I'd still recommend probably Three Body, but Three Body is more abstract. It delves into interesting problems. It doesn't have nearly the depth of character, but it has interesting problems.
The purposes are different.
Yeah.
Peggy, I want to know, if it's a 9.75, what made you mark it off the 0.25? What would have made it a full 10? Children of Time is still Peggy's favorite. It's her 10.
Wow.
Interesting.
I mean, and Children of Time is fire, right? Like it's they have the same sort of problem solving, scientific problems. It also delves, I feel like, into some like bigger issues or more problems for humanity. So.
She's letting us know that there is another dog on our sidewalk.
Where it does not belong. We'll have to close all the windows when we do this.
But she's fine. She's just being a dog. Vectors marked it down. What does that mean?
Vectors marked it down. I don't know. I don't know what it means.
Explain yourself. Josh, we did not read the whole Children of Time series, but Peggy has read at least into the second book.
And I've
Greg
been...
Fox has read more than just the first book.
Yeah, and one of our other book club members has read the second one and highly recommends it, but maybe not the third. I think it was. And I've heard that from several people.
Now look,
okay, sorry.
You are slinging her around.
My bad.
She's just a doorstop.
Whatever, that's fine. But as far as science fiction goes, sometimes science fiction can be kind of dry, and sometimes I feel like the concepts are more important than the characters are.
Yes.
And that's what's been so refreshing about this and Children of Time. Is that the characters are just so vibrant in a way that you don't normally get. overly complicated math and science. Sure.
Gotcha.
Now, I will say this: I feel like Children of Time, and that's probably what Peggy's pointing out, is Children of Time had the science and had sort of this exploration, but it didn't give us numbers. You know, they invent a radio, and they didn't tell us about like vibration count per minute, or anything like
Right.
that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and this book really would go into it sometimes.
Oh, yeah.
Really would go into... He showed his work.
Yeah.
He showed his math.
Yeah.
So, yeah. But it was this character development. And this is how sci-fi can be so useful, right? It shows you the possibilities of what could be. And it gives you the curiosity and the interest to make it so. A little reference there for any of my Trekkies. And if someone can manage to make it palatable, like by making it emotional and making it personable, well, then you've got an even wider audience to understand the potential for the future, And so, like, that is what, like, Carl Sagan did as a scientist, tried to make it palatable and fun and interesting for the regular person. And that's what Star Trek does is, there's that emotional aspect to it, that personable aspect to it, the humanity aspect to it. That's how sci-fi can be so beneficial to read. Just encouraging that creativity, encouraging people to keep coming up with new ideas to make the future a better place for us.
Yeah. And as far as like science fiction goes, this is like a near future thing, right? It's not a far. So many far future things are dark and get weird, and Children of Time has that element, and I enjoy that element. But everything minus the astrophage and the things that were allowed through the astrophage, and then of course all of Rocky's technology, everything is like achievable. It's all things that we could do. It's math that we have in existence. And I think that is interesting, and this is a story about what we are capable of, and not just this. It's not a cautionary tale, and so much sci-fi is cautionary tales, and that's fine. And I think important because we're going full steam ahead on some things without thinking about what the caution should be.
Yeah, but cautionary tales wear me out sometimes. I'm like, all
Sure.
right.
Well, having a tale of hope is nice, and a tale of like a tale of what we're capable of.
Yeah. Oh, it was so good. I did have another thing to say, and it just. I looked up like if this book has been in other book clubs and like what kinds of questions they asked and stuff. And one of the questions that someone asked was, do you think the astrophage is a realistic possibility? Like the existence of something like that.
Not on that level. The whole concept that something that is like microbe style can hold that much energy seems a little fantastic to me. That being said, we can split an atom and it goes boom, right? Like, but even then, splitting an atom doesn't give us that much boom, right? Not enough boom to go from one star to another. I don't know. That all seemed a little fantastic. Do I think that you could potentially evolve something that is a life form that is capable of interstellar travel without the need of a ship? Maybe. Like, maybe. Maybe. But the problem is, like, why? Why would that even, how would you possibly have something? Because the astrophage's environment is the surface of a sun, which is tough to adapt to, right? And then the surface of another planet. And for you to get to that migration, you have to have made it and have a reason to have made it. And we have plenty of things that migrate, right? We have birds and stuff that migrate. But they started in one place and then flew a little ways and then back and then a little ways and back. And then like you get this, right? There's somewhere to stop along the way. And there's nowhere to stop between the two things. It might be entirely possible that astrophage was created by someone. There's no reason to think that it just is natural, if it's a panspermia event, it could be that the base astrophage situation, the ancestor to astrophage that created us and astrophage, because this story accepts that, could have been generated somehow, by some other intelligence.
Yeah. Yes, another book did tell us, Peggy, that people do what they're capable of.
Yeah, if it's possible, we will do it.
Yeah. What book was that?
Don't know.
What was the last sci-fi we read?
I can tell you. I don't know.
Gosh, yeah, we've read so many things.
Yeah, all the books they're all starting to blend together for me.
Yeah.
Unfortunately. The last sci-fi we read was The Mountain and the Sea. Yeah.
Oh,
and that might have been the book.
Was it.
Yeah.
Good job, Peggy. Goodness.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Peggy also mentioned something, worth reflecting on is that, we only evolve as much as we need in order to survive predators.
Yeah.
And like, why can we hear the same wavelength? Well, Rocky points out, because that sound of something rubbing together is your predator coming at you or your prey running away.
Right.
And
that's universal.
Yeah.
Or like falling rocks, or, they all exist in the same wavelength, more or less.
And with the tau amoeba evolving more than one thing at a time, both to resist nitrogen and to escape it.
Yeah.
Duh.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think it was maybe... I can't remember which book now, but I think it was one of the Three Body books. Like the idea that like life is just sort of what the universe does. In the same way that we agree that it has physics and that it has chemistry, that maybe that therefore, gives rise, that chemistry gives rise to biology, and that there would be the same pressures that create stars or other, astronomical phenomenon throughout the universe would be the same pressures that create life. And despite the fact that those life forms may look different based upon like the materials available, that ultimately we end up with something very similar. Like if we found an Earth-like planet that had life on it, we should expect for it to look recognizable. I'm not saying like us, it could have been the crocodiles that made it or whatever. Mm-hmm. But it should be something that we'd be like, we have something like this at home, And maybe they don't have mitochondria or whatever, but they would have something that serves a similar purpose, I think would be likely. And then it is interesting to think about, well, then what are the things that cross those similar planets? And what is similar between planets that are different? And what makes up that base strata? Yeah, so what if the Talmiba becomes something else? Like what if it begins to eat other things? That'd be interesting. Like what if on accident they made it to like now it eats photons or something, and then you just have them like blotting out the sun? You're like, I don't know. Yeah, you could have all kinds of problems.
Yeah, too bad Grace never found his non-water based life.
Yeah.
Well, What else?
I don't know. I think I've said just about everything I'd like to say.
Yeah.
We've had such a healthy spread on sci-fi, I guess, because in Three Body you have aliens who are like significantly far beyond us, and in The Mountain and the Sea we have aliens that are just now becoming, like they're just now becoming sentient, and they're becoming something that could be like us. And in this situation we have like a totally different race with totally different science They're miles ahead of us in lots of ways, but they're also behind us in so many ways because of their physical capabilities and their inability to even begin to imagine the possibilities of like radiation or like you could see light or things like that, which then makes me wonder like what sort of things are hiding beyond our senses that we have not even begun to
Right.
discover. And so it's we've had like a really good spread of like where the other is at in terms of ourselves and what does that look like, you know.
And even throughout, one of the things that I think makes this so pleasant to read is that Grace's first response wasn't, how are all the ways that we're different? It's,
Yeah.
we are both life forms.
Yeah.
How are all the ways that we're alike?
Yeah.
And that's what he used to communicate and create a relationship.
Yeah.
I'm so glad he went back for him.
Well, and I think, you know, we've talked about this too, again, on a book I can't remember, but the way that you think about things matters, you know, and you can think about a door as the thing that keeps the outside away from you, or you can think about a door as the thing that connects you to the outside. And that might seem like small potatoes, but like if you send someone on a journey like this with the chance of meeting alien life, I think it'd be important for us to like do some psychological assessment on like how do you think about these problems and how do you perceive these things, you know, do you see it as an obstacle to overcome, or do you see this as a possibility? You know, what are these different ways that people explore these things? Because what if Grace was somebody who focused on the differences instead of the commonalities? Now he still would focus on the common because he wanted to communicate with this thing, and that's just the way that works. But he did go straight there, you know.
That made me wonder if in astronaut training, is there a component of astronaut training that is, in the rare case that you
Right.
come across some other life form,
Yeah.
you know, here's the protocol.
Or like, what would Dubois do if he had lived,
Yeah.
and if his concrete, right?
Yeah.
Like, he's doing science, but he doesn't seem like particularly flexible, right, in his thinking. But if he were the one who had met Rocky, what would that look like? Would he be focused on the differences, on like finding the most logical way of doing something instead of like creating a connection or whatever? You know, I don't know.
And I think also our response is different. Their response was different because they were both the only ones left on their
Yes,
ship.
I do think that was important.
Had Rocky had any of his fellows, or had Grace had any of his fellows,
Yeah.
all of a sudden you're a bit braver and more independent and stronger when you got someone on your back, you
Right.
know? And it could have gone much differently had either side had other survivors.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, and Josh brings up that there was a gun on board. Like, it could have been bad. You know, like
Yeah.
they could have killed the thing, you know?
That's really weird that they honored that method of death.
I'm on board. Whatever.
It seems like he could easily mess that up.
Oh, yeah, you know, no, but he was Russian. Right? He knew. That's really what I wanted. Oh, man, I had something to say. Now it's gone.
Sorry.
This is a rough memory day for me. Whenever he agrees to give Rocky, but whenever they separate for the first time, he gives Rocky technology and information for him to take back to Aridne. And I thought about Star Trek and like the whole, what is it called? Prime Directive, where you don't get involved with other races. And I was like, well, he just like super violated
No,
this thing.
well, he didn't, because the rule of the Prime Directive is you don't interfere if they have not reached travel capacity. Like if
Gotcha.
they can't travel, space travel,
Gotcha.
then you don't
Okay.
interact. But once they've hit that phase, then they're ready to take on
Yeah.
other issues and understandings.
Right. Yeah.
I also thought about the Prime Directive, but I
Gotcha.
was like, no,
Okay,
we're
fair
good. We're clear.
But
But it is interesting, sorry,
no good.
that the Iridians learned space travel, but had such a fundamental non-understanding of so many other important things.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I mean, but it just absolutely changes the direction of a civilization, and I don't necessarily have a problem with that. I see the Prime Directive almost as like a trolley problem, and there's like where like no matter what path you pick, like you're sacrificing something. And there's plenty of Star Trek episodes, I think, where like they semi-violate the Prime Directive because they're like, well, if we don't do anything, all these people die or whatever. But then I think
They let the people believe they are gods
right,
in
right.
one scenario to like help mitigate an issue.
But I think about situations where, like, with the Japanese Empire and basically going from like the Middle Ages to World War II in the span of a generation or two, and the trouble that created, which could have happened anywhere, but it was a unique historical amalgamation of like that particular place and time. And what could that do to other societies? And that's not nobody's fault. I don't, but you know, it makes me wonder, what does Rocky's civilization end up looking like once they have this massive technological jump, but they're still, you know, Rocky Cave people or whatever, you know.
But I mean, they seem pretty advanced.
They seem chill. Yeah, they seem cool. But like, what happens when Rocky we don't know anything about Rocky's society. Nothing.
Yeah.
You know, what happens
Except
when...
they're like thrum.
Yeah.
That was cool.
That was cool. But what happens when we sent this information to one faction of 4 factions fighting for supremacy or
Right.
differences in ideology or something, and now they, you know, go Nazi mode on everybody or something? Like, what happens when Rocky's a space Nazi? I don't know. We
Right.
don't know.
Right. I mean, we're just all lucky that they all seemed
Yeah.
real
Yeah.
eager to have this contact and communication and not be crazy.
You're right. The heroin woman was Russian.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, anything else? I think Dubois was American. Yeah, yeah.
It was a great book.
Would anybody be interested in a sequel from Rocky's point of view?
Yes, yes, yes.
Yes, yes, yes.
Good, good, good.
Would anybody be interested in a sequel from Rocky's point of view? Question.
Yeah. I really look forward to the movie adaptation of this.
Yeah, that would be cool. We've only got a couple years. Hopefully we'll still be doing this, and we can all watch it together. That'd be fun. All right, anything else? We've hit about an hour. We got to go.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
This was just good.
Yeah.
Like Josh said, it really did hit on a lot of feels.
Yeah.
It was very emotional. It was great.
I'm glad we picked it.
Yeah, me too.
Did I pick this? I did pick
You
this.
did, yeah.
Nice.
I think all of our good books are yours.
I tend to pick sci-fi. I'm the sci-fi picker. So, anyway, we want to thank everybody for coming and joining us for this very long ramble. I hope this was enjoyable for you guys, because this was a long one.
Sorry.
And we had some distractions, and my brain is not working right.
Yeah, but the distraction
When you are tired, you get stupid.
Yeah. Yes, that is so true.
Just Rocky was like, go to bed. Space mom. I thought that was really funny. Yeah. But
I'm the risk taker, like literally. Yeah.
So anyway, thank you all for being here. We hope you had a great time. We hope that you join us for our next book, which is going to be The Devil in the Dark Water by Stuart Turton, which Nicole has accidentally spoiled slightly for herself. I don't know how.
Just by like breaking the book up into the pieces that we'll be reading, I saw some stuff and I was like, oh my God.
That's a great reaction to have. That's what I'm looking for. So anyway, we'll put that up in a few minutes. And I believe that book is currently free. I'm told. I haven't checked on Kindle and on Audible, but so y'all give that a look.
Yeah, I found it free on Kindle.
Okay, cool.
So y'all grab it while you can.
All right. Well, we will see you this time next week.
Happy reading.
Bye. I usually don't go that way because it shows my thumb. Now you all know.